It's cool to be able to get up in the morning, get ready for work. You throw on the FCP Euro shirt, the FCP Euro hoodie, and you get to walk out, open the garage door, and there's this E30. I get to be the guy wearing the gear, getting in the car with the name plastered on the windshield, and drive to FCP Euro and do what I love to do while making other people feel somewhat that same feeling. There's something to be said about being able to put the key into the ignition of this car, giving it that first hard click, seeing the check light on the dash, and then giving it the second click and hearing that M30 start to life. Get the lumpy idle from the oversized cam. It's like mechanical music, basically. And you don't get that with a lot of new cars. And for me, the E30 is the best for that. My name is Mike Hidalgo, and I am a retail associate for FCP Euro in the Grand Experience Center. And this is my 1987 BMW 325i. It's an 87, it's got a 535is block, and it's got a 89 735i cylinder head, and it's made it to a GetRag 5-speed. It's got an Eisenmann Exhaust, SSR wheels, and Ireland engineering cam. I've known this car for longer than I've had it, and the first time I laid eyes on it, I thought it was cool. Like, I didn't know anything about them. All I knew was the E36 platform and the E46 platform. That was all I ever had at the time. Saw this car at Auto Technic in New Milford one day with my cousin, and he was telling me about it, so we stopped to see it. A couple months go by, the car's still sitting. My cousin decides to buy the car. Drives it for like about 2 summers, and the car just sits in the barn for the next couple years. And so I called up my cousin, and I said, hey man, you still have that E30? And he's like, oh yeah, it's just sitting in the garage. I went to his house, I looked at it. I didn't even drive the car. I hadn't seen the car in 2 years. It was sitting under a car cover, and we made the deal, jumped it, and drove it about 30 feet before it died. And it still wasn't enough to tell me, don't buy it. It was like making me want it even more. And that's where my journey with this car started. The car was basically set up the same way when I purchased it, except the M30 was tired, it was leaking oil, it was all greasy, the tires were completely dry rotted, and the car just needed love. This car has been engine swapped for a very long time. I have no history of where the drivetrain came from. Fast forward to 2019, it's just the beginning of spring, and we're getting ready for our first Cars and Coffee opener here at FCP Euro. So we get the engine out of the car, I pull it out with the transmission. I find that easier. Also, everything was covered in oil, so I was gonna power wash it anyways. I pull off the VIN off the engine block because I'm curious to see what this came out of. And it turned out to be a 87 535is. Did a lot of Bimmercat research, and eventually I put 2 and 2 together. I have a 5 Series block with a 7 Series head. So I started looking stuff up like the head gasket, the new rockers. I got a cam from Ireland Engineering. All the sensors were replaced, spark plugs, wires, you name it, it was done. So along with tearing everything apart and learning what everything came from, the other half of the task was cleaning everything, painting everything, making it look presentable. While the swap was done well, it was never pretty. It was hideous, as a matter of fact. So that was my way of making it my way. Everything needs to look good. I've always been concerned with how things appear or look or perform. This is my car. I put the time into it. I put the wrench time. I put the spray paint on it. I did the waxing. I did the cleaning. I did the crying. I did the bleeding on it. And it's like, you can't put a price on that. May 19th came around. The car had about 100 miles on it since its rebuild, and it made it to its first Cars and Coffee at FCP Euro, looking the way it does now. I bought my first BMW. It was a 99 E36 convertible, 68,000 miles, one owner car, going through eBay Motors, saw it online, called about it. So I get off the phone with him, I'm thinking about it a little bit more. It's got bids, but the reserve was set at $7,000 for buy it now. So I'm sitting in the middle of chemistry class one day and I just hit buy it now on my phone, and the next thing you know, I'm driving to New Jersey to pick it up with my friend Steve. As soon as I got it home, valve cover gasket needed. Only 68K, but it was also, over 15 years old at the time. So my friend Ben goes, Mike, you should buy your valve cover gasket from this website. I'm like, what's this website? And he's like, it's fcpeuro.com. And that was the only thing I bought. I bought the valve cover gasket, went on YouTube, looked up how to do it, and that was that. Car was good for a long time. And then I bought myself a second E36 project. 2 weeks in, I probably had 7 FCPeuro boxes at my house. And I followed their Facebook page. And then from there, I saw that they were having Cars and Coffee. So I came and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And so fast forward, over a year goes by. I kept coming to the Cars and Coffee. Talked to one of the guys that was working the event, and they told me a little bit about what it was, and seeing one of the employees' cars in the lift, and seeing the fact that it was like, you literally get to work with cars, which is what I love doing. You get to work with people that love the same stuff you love. And I was like, I should apply, jokingly. And it was always a joke. It was always like, you're never leaving the family business, because that's what your parents set it up for. They're leaving it in your hands. You went to college for business, and you're gonna take it over, and like, that's that. They own a Mexican restaurant in Newtown, Connecticut. And I did that since I was 12 years old. Everything from serving, cooking, training, running their Facebook page, you name it, that's what I did. And I did that all throughout college, literally until I started FCPeuro. Every now and then I go back, gotta make sure my chef skills are in place still, but otherwise it was always a restaurant business. And so I applied. And I got an email back, and I was supposed to have a phone interview with Joe Coppola. Love you, Dad. 9:30 comes around, no phone call. I went into work at 10 o'clock, so I'm like, I got half an hour to kill before I go into the restaurant. 9:40, 9:50, 10 o'clock hits. I have no way of contacting the person that was supposed to call me. So I said, I'll email Scott. It's the only email on the website that I can find. So I emailed Scott and I say, hey, Mr. Jodes, I had a phone interview set up with Joe Coppola today at 9:30. I haven't heard from him, just wanted to make sure I didn't get the date wrong. 2 seconds later, I get a phone call from Joe Coppola. He's like, hey man, I'm sorry I didn't get to call you early. We've been really busy, which once I joined FCPeuro, I saw what he meant. And I was like, yeah man, we met like a month ago. I was in here for some wheel bearings. He was like, oh yeah. And he did one of these. And Joe tells me, you gotta take your ASE test, you gotta do the drug test. I do everything the next day, as early as I can. I send everything in, and then it's radio silence for another 2 months. And then sure enough, December comes around, and the service manager calls me at the time, and she says, hey listen, the job we can offer you is this, and if you're interested, you can come in and we'll go from there. And I started as a FCPeuro customer service agent, and did that for 6 months. Walking through those stores, I kick on the lights, and my first thing is to check how many of orders come through overnight. How many people, like myself, have been sitting at home thinking about what they need to buy to get their project finished, going, started. So beside me, I have Mylena, Darren, and Rain, and we all do the same thing. We come in, we try to get all the orders that have been placed overnight and in the morning ready for pickup, so that that first batch of people can come in and start their project. Besides that, we do a lot of other things, as well as servicing the customer with questions, answering how-tos for them. A lot of times people will come in and they genuinely do not know what they need. They ask us for mechanical advice. Now, well, we're not a shop, we are enthusiasts, and like them, we've gone through a lot of issues that they have or they're experiencing, and along with that comes a lot of learning. There's a lot of things that I did not know before I started at FCPeuro that I thought I knew. And it was literally from day-to-day interactions with different customers driving different cars that I've been able to learn a little bit about everything. And I think it's kind of special because we care about what we're doing and we know what it's like to be in those shoes. You know, car ownership is not enjoyable. It's not always a pleasure. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to try to make that a little bit easier. And I think I speak for all of us up front where, you know, we say we're not just the face of FCP Euro, but we're service, we're DIY advice, and we're friends. You know, someone asked me 4 years ago, Mike, where do you see yourself in the future? And I said, I don't have 20/20 vision. But here we are, it's 2020. E30 is not done. E30 only got a drivetrain refresh. We still have a whole nother mess of things to get into. Next on the list is gonna be a full suspension refresh. This experience center is brand new for us. So what is in store for the future? I couldn't tell you. All I know that it's gonna be with FCP Euro. It's gonna be fantastic. And we hope you come along for the ride with us and come say hi. It's my 1987 BMW 325is. What's the I for? Independence. What's the S for? Superstar. Cut. Cut. Let's restart.